Jack of all trades, master of none. Come on, you're never gonna succeed. You might as well give up. You've given up on everything. You've changed your career so many times. You've changed your interests so many times. You've changed your majors so many times. Who's going to believe you that you're going to stick to something? You literally know a bit of everything and you don't know anything at all. Jack of all trades, master of none. I'm sure most of us have heard that expression before, but I'm here to say that that is a very harmful expression, and not everyone can be a jack of all trades, and not everyone can be a simple master to one specialty. If you've ever been shamed or if you've ever felt guilty for having too many passions at once, this video is for you. Chances are you might be a multi-passionate person, and there's nothing wrong being multi-passionate. And if you're wondering, how do I know if I'm multi-passionate? Well, here are some signs. First of all, you're always curious, you're always generating new ideas, you're always learning new skills, new hobbies, new subjects, you're always researching and trying new things, and you're constantly getting out of your comfort zone. There's a lot of negative stigma when it comes to multi-passionate creators and multi-passionate people. For one, we're mostly blamed for lacking focus, and that's because our focus can be dispersed in many subjects at once, and most people cannot wrap their head around such concept. And I'll give you a little example. For me, I typically read about 5 to 10 books at the same time, and they're from different subjects, different fields. And I've always personally excelled better when I have multiple subjects at once. So I'll give you an example of this. Also, when I went to university and when I did my master's specifically in university, I did not want to do one final paper on one final subject. So what I ended up doing is that I took as many courses as I could, and at the end I actually wrote 5 separate papers on 5 separate topics, and I thrived doing it that way because I knew that if I was to focus on one singular subject, I would not have the passion or I would not have the interest for it, because the way that my brain is wired is that it loves to explore a bunch of little things, and that's why I knew that a PhD program would not be beneficial to me. Truth be told, it's not that we cannot focus on one thing. We can actually hyper focus on multiple things at the same time. And this is something that's not really celebrated and recommended in our society. And the messaging that we get is very counterintuitive, because in some ways we want people to be specialists, we want them to focus, we want them to choose one degree, one career. We ask children, what do you want to be when you grow up? Expecting answers of like varying degrees, and then as we get older and older, we're supposed to refine our answer. We're supposed to know exactly what we want to do, what we want to be. But multi-passionate people do not like to define themselves. They like to have an array of things, and they like to have an array of words linked to their name. So maybe you want to be a writer, a coach, an actor, a researcher, all kinds of things all at once. And there's nothing really stopping you from achieving that and from having that except the societal pressure and the internalized negativity around being multi-passionate and having more than one interest, wanting more than one thing for yourself, having more than one skill that you are developing at a time. It's important to note that some people like to have one thing, one career for the rest of their lives, and there's nothing wrong with that. The world needs multi-passionate people, and the world needs specialist people. The main issue is that multi-passionate people should not be compared and should not compare themselves to specialist type of people. Because what ends up happening is that we start to internalize these messaging that don't resonate with us, which is you're lazy, you're scatterbrained, you can't focus on one thing, you're never going to be credible because you're always changing, you're never going to grow an audience because you're always changing. And that's not true, because multi-passionate people have always been around. If anything, at some point in history, it was encouraged to have multiple passions, multiple skills, multiple ideas at once. Some multi-passionate people include Albert Einstein, Eleanor Roosevelt, Leonardo da Vinci, Marie Forleo, Steve Jobs, and many more. And that's why in today's video, I want to talk about the 7 ways in which you can embrace yourself as a multi-passionate person. Having multiple strengths and passions can be a tremendous gift as long as you embrace it. Marie Forleo.
Have courage and be passionate. The worst thing that could happen to a multi-passionate person is to box themselves into one thing and lose their spark. So you need to remain passionate and lead from the heart. You need to own it. You need to trust yourself, trust your intuition, stop delaying or holding back or forcing yourself to choose one thing when you know that you're meant for many things at once. Let yourself try things you've always wanted to. And don't listen to your limiting beliefs and the ones bestowed onto you by others. Not all interests should be monetized. Now, don't get me wrong, because multi-passionate people typically have multiple streams of income, and this makes sense if you are a dance coach, as well as a writer, as well as a creative designer, as well as a translator, as well as a etc, 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 then it makes sense that you're going to have multiple streams of income, multiple ways of making your income, especially when you want to sustain your life as a multi-passionate person that gets to do a little bit of everything in their own time. But with everything, even as multi-passionate people, we need to understand our limits, and we need to understand that some passions are just for ourselves. Some passions are just for us to pick up and drop off whenever we feel like. Like, for example, for me, I also have a deep love for music and a deep love for piano, and I've been learning on and off how to play the piano for many years, and that's just one passion that I don't foresee myself monetizing, but I see myself still keeping dear to me. And another thing is, I also like to learn languages, but I don't feel the need, or maybe I don't feel the need for now, to drop a language course in how to learn French, although I have been a teaching assistant in university and I have taught French for beginners. But you see, it's such an integral part to me that I don't even feel the need to monetize my French or my language skills. But like I said, it all depends. Some interests you will monetize, other interests you won't want to monetize. And that's okay, because it's healthy to have a balance, and you don't need to monetize every single thing in your life.
Realize that everything connects to everything else. Leonardo da Vinci.
Find a way to make your interests coincide together. I find that YouTubers are really good at this because they're really good at meshing into their content everything that makes them them. So all of their little interests, all of their little side projects, side hobbies, their businesses. And I think that a lot of multi-passionate people end up being YouTubers and end up being, those type of people that do vlog style content or lifestyle content. And I think that's one way to go about it. I also think that writers are good at this too, because they tend to take their own personal knowledge and the knowledge that they gain from books and from studying and from literature and condense it into this one book or into this one memoir. And I think that the more that we make connections in multiple disciplinary, which that could also be just writing, storytelling, YouTubing, doing graphics, whatever it is, the more that you expand as a multi-passionate person. And the more that we do that, the more that we get to embrace ourselves. And also, it's like when you first start university, in the first year of university, and you see that you have to take a bunch of courses from all kinds of subjects. And then you realize, oh wow, philosophy is related to science, and science is related to math, and math is related to literature, and etc. Like, things just always interconnect. And I think that multi-passionate people are really good at synthesizing and analyzing and bringing multiple viewpoints to everything that they do and everything that they touch. So I truly believe that if you want to embrace being a multi-passionate person, you really need to find a way to coincide all of these interests that you have and all of this knowledge that you have. You also need to learn how to prioritize according to season and according to intuition. Chances are you might have multiple active interests right now, but there are moments in time and seasons in your life that some interests will take the back seat, and other times in which it'll be in the front seat. And also, some interests will always be at the front seat with various degrees of engagement on your part. So for me, for example, I'm always going to be a writer. I'm always going to be writing. However, there are seasons in my life where I seem to be writing different type of content. I seem to be focusing more on my blog, focusing more on YouTube, focusing more on TikToks. Whereas, I would love to do more novel writing or more long form writing. It's always that delicate balance of recognizing what season are you in, what season right now is your special interest going to benefit you, and what can you bring in this season, and what can you wait for the next season. And I think that multi-passionate people struggle with this. Once you find that balance, once you understand that, oh hey, maybe this is how I function, this is how I work, so maybe I need to focus all my time and attention on these 3 things for the next 3 months, and then I can go back to these other 6 things that I really enjoy for the next 6 months or whatever it is, right? So really hone into your intuition, hone into the seasons in your life and the seasons of change in your life in order to have that balance as a multi-passionate person.
You are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop. Rumi.
Don't tell everyone about every new project. Many people will discourage you. Many people will try to keep you grounded and keep you stuck into one thing, or stuck into the one thing that they know you as, because it's so much easier for them to put you in a box, and it's so much easier for them to relate to you and understand you. But that is a multi-passionate person's downfall, because we don't operate that way, and we can't fault other people for not understanding us for being this way, and as well as that, we can't fault them to be the way that they are, right? If they're more like a specialist type of person, more of a one career type of driven person. So I think we have to protect our projects, and we have to protect our new interests, because the thing is, when we talk about it but we don't follow through, or we take time to follow through, or we pick it up and then let it go, and then pick it up and let it go again, other people are gonna see this in a negative light, whereas we just know that we get enjoyment from just learning. We get enjoyment from just starting something new, although we don't have to be the biggest specialist, or we don't have to actually see it through, or actually change our career to focus on this one thing. You need to protect yourself in a way that you will still love to pick up new things, pick up new projects, but not always having to share with other people, because other people have expectations on you and expectations of you that you will not meet, because you know yourself more, and you know your interests, and you know your seasons, and you know your intuition more than other people, right? I definitely encourage to keep some projects on silent and just share when you're ready, and share your process when you're ready. You could share online, but you don't have to share with everyone that you know personally, because like I said, they're gonna have their own projections and expectations. Similarly, say no to what you don't want to do. Drop other people's expectation of you, because like I said, people like to see other people in a box. They like to see other people in the one or two interests that they have, or the one or two specialty that they have. People will also assume that since you juggle so many interests, that you could add another thing onto your plate. And you have to learn how to say no, so that you don't burn yourself out doing things that you don't want to do, and you don't burn yourself out taking on more than you can chew. So for example, if you're a writer but you're also an academic and you're also a translator, that does not mean that you have to do someone else's academic work or business translation. Even if they say they'll compensate you, even if they said that that's going to be easy work for you, and that you always are doing so many things and you're always a specialist in this, that, and this and that, you have to learn how to say no, because you have to protect your own vitality towards your own passion, your own interest, and towards your own business, basically. So learn to say no and do what you want to do. You have to live your own life. You have to stop listening to other people's blueprint, especially if they're not multi-passionate like you are, because then you're just going to confuse yourself, and you're going to think that there's something deeply wrong with you, but that's not the case. So learn to say no, and learn to use your discernment.
I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious. Albert Einstein.
And finally, try to connect with like-minded people, or try to look at other multi-passionate people, because the thing is, a lot of us end up connecting with the wrong people, and then we feel like we're behind. We feel like we're not doing things the right way. We feel like we should be focusing on one thing, when we know that it's going to be our downfall. But when you connect with other people that are doing multiple things, that are, prioritizing their multiple passion, then it gives us that hope and that determination to do the same, and, lead our own paths and pave the way for ourselves, right? So you basically have to find your community of multi-passionate people. And I think that going online and looking at TikTok and YouTube in your area is a good place to start. But I also think that going to events of the interests that you have and making friends, even if you have to make multiple friends of different interests, is a way to connect with all your passion, to connect with all of your interests, and to have people that will support that. Even though some of them are not going to be multi-passionate, it's still a good thing to have connections and to have different people for different interests, because then you won't feel like you're always alone. And there's also established multi-passionate people online. There's Mary Forleo, who's a dancer, coach, and creative entrepreneur. There's Emily Wapnick, who's a speaker, career coach, blogger, and community leader. Then there's people from the past like Toni Morrison and Leonardo da Vinci, who, according to Wikipedia, was an Italian polymath of the High Renaissance who was active as a painter, draughtsman, engineer, scientist, theorist, sculptor, and architect. So I really encourage you to Google and look up people that are multi-passionate, because they will make you feel inspired and make you feel like, oh, yeah, we've been around for a very long time. It's just our society that doesn't encourage being multi-passionate as an individual, because it's better for society if we're career-driven and we can have one job from the moment we enter the workforce to the moment we retire, right? So like I said, it takes a lot of courage to be yourself, and it takes a lot of courage to be a multi-passionate person. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Eleanor Roosevelt.